Greetings, fellow gamers. I'm the Soulsborne Seeker, and today I'll be reviewing Gal Guardians Servants of the Dark, an action RPG Metroidvania game developed by INTI CREATES and released on the 27th of March 2025 for PC, PS4, PS5, Nintendo Switch, Xbox One, as well as the Xbox Series X and Series S. Gal Guardians Servants of the Dark is the sequel to the very well-received action game Gal Guardians Demon Purge, though knowledge of the previous game's story is not necessary to enjoy this one, since they merely take place within the same universe and feature no actual narrative connections. Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark transpires in a world of demons where all manner of ghouls, ghosts, fiends, and demonic entities coexist in a fragile balance. We follow two demon-maids, Kirika and Masha, who return to their lord's castle after a short vacation trip only to find the place besieged by monsters under the leadership of a rival demon lord, and immediately take up arms in order to defend it. Following an intense battle, they manage to rebuff the invaders, but not before their lord nearly being killed and his bones scattered across the land. With renewed conviction and vengeance in their heart, Kirika, Masha, and their now weakened lord embark on a mission to retrieve his bones, restore his power, and take the fight to the enemy. While the narrative won't win any prizes, it was actually quite fun to follow and gave off a surprisingly feel-good vibe that kept things light and wholesome for the most part, which I found enjoyable. I should mention that the game is very anime-oriented in its mentality, both in terms of character design as well as their personalities, and incorporates several shonen anime character and story tropes, including some mildly suggestive scenes, so if that's not your cup of tea, best to know in advance. In terms of setting, the game features a good number of biomes to explore, boasting solid diversity in terms of themes, enemies, and pitfalls. Whether you're exploring the map's frosty mountains, its lush forests, or fiery depths, no two areas felt the same, neither in terms of visuals nor foes and traps, which kept things fresh and unpredictable. Some enemies do get recycled in color-coded fashion, but they do come with different attack effects, such as goblin archers that can freeze or poison you depending on their type, so there's a silver lining there. Traveling between the different areas of the world is made easier by the presence of a nice fast travel system in the form of these boats, which take you between discovered piers for a nominal fee, which you can remove at some point later on. Hazards aside, the biomes also feature a good number of secrets to uncover, most of which I found to be incredibly useful, thus making exploration a worthwhile endeavor. By my count, the game features a total of 6 different types of collectibles, namely consumables, sub-weapons, demon relics, key items, gold, and finally, demon bones. Consumables are one-use items that you utilize in exchange for some beneficial effect, such as restoring a part of your health or demon power. Sub-weapons refer to a wealth of different secondary armaments you can find, which bring forth special attacks at the cost of your demon power, or DP, such as cleaving enemies in two with a greatsword or throwing lancers at them. Sub-weapons can be equipped 2 at a time and can also be upgraded via the game's crafting system, though in all honesty I rarely bothered with these and only used them when absolutely necessary, instead choosing to focus on my regular attacks, which I thought were much more efficient. Demon relics are the second type of equipment you find, and in my humble opinion, much more useful than sub-weapons, since they offer certain passive benefits once equipped, many of which were phenomenally helpful, such as giving significant boosts in your attack and defense statistics or increasing item drop rates from defeated enemies. Key items are an assortment of special finds that have different purposes, such as servant souls, which you can use to bring back deceased allies who then offer their services to you in the form of shops or advice, demon glyphs that are used to open special doors, and timber, which is utilized to rebuild your castle, thus allowing your restored servants to grant you more bonuses. Gold is necessary in order to purchase goods from merchants, as well as for a certain optional NPC who gives you a special reward. Finally, demon bones are without a doubt the most important collectible in the game, since said bones are necessary for you to level up your characters, a process that not only raises your health, damage, and demon power, but also grants you new traversal abilities like the double jump and dash, making them paramount to your success. Most of these collectibles are either found inside large chests or obtained from merchants in exchange for gold, though a good number of them can also drop from slain foes. Given how large the map can feel at times when you go to seek out secrets, it's a good thing that the overview is actually quite solid and offers certain automations when it comes to marking. More specifically, the map automatically marks several points of interest such as chest locations, merchants, demon relic gates, fast travel locations, as well as save points, but doesn't mark ability gates. That being said, it does offer the possibility for manual markers to be placed by you, which I highly recommend you start inserting from the get-go to make your life easier later on. Since we're on the topic of exploration, there is one major gripe I have with the game that needs to be mentioned given that it led to a significant degree of frustration, and that issue has to do with traversal abilities. More specifically, when the game offers you a new skill, it gives you a brief explanation of what it's meant to do, but for some ungodly reason, doesn't tell you the specific button input to perform it. Now, while this may be trivial when it comes to some tried and true abilities like double jumping and dashing, things take a sinisterly desperate turn when we move to the more advanced skills, such as the demon dash and demon straight, the latter of which was a nightmare to figure out. In order to perform the demon dash, you need to first activate your lord's power and then hold down the dash button in order to break through obstacles and walk across liquid hazards, which I guess is fair to assume you will manage to figure out eventually. That being said, I dare you to figure out demon straight, which is a massive punch you can throw directionally in order to break certain blockages. This is me trying to figure out how to perform it by button mushing and actually managing it by accident. It wasn't until about 15 minutes later, as I was trying every combination imaginable, that I realized you need to first have your demon lord's power active, which was the easy part, and then press both special attack buttons while aiming in the desired direction to pull it off. The game is in dire need of better ability usage tutorials, which, as far as I know, the developers are working on implementing, but no change has occurred as of the time of these reviews writing. There is one more thing to report when it comes to exploration, though I feel that I ended up liking this instead of considering it an issue, and that is the following. Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark tends to not only be cryptic with the aforementioned ability explanations, but also with environmental progression. Essentially, there are certain places you will come across that may seem impossible to move through at first, only to eventually realize that you need to use certain sub-weapons to make it. For example, while trying to figure out how to move through some lava obstacles, I eventually decided to try and use an ice sub-weapon that I had in order to see if it would do the trick as an elemental opposite. The problem was that said weapon is controlled by the game, and so I figured I'd try to have it hit an enemy in an angle that would also touch the lava, which ended up actually freezing it and allowing me to pass through. I initially felt a bit frustrated that this wasn't hinted at as a possibility, but decided that it wasn't such a big leap of logic and actually made me feel smarter in a way, so I deliberated that it was actually ingenious. Platforming wise, the game is definitely on the lighter side of things when it comes to its acrobatic segments, which are quite limited and won't really trouble you much. That's not to say that they're a piece of cake to go through, but I never really felt like I was dealing with any high stakes obstacles while traversing the map, with most of the challenge in that regard being actually locating some of the optional platforming sections. To be fair, platforming is by no means the game's focus, which clearly lies with fighting instead. When it comes to combat, Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark plays things by the book by borrowing from some of the strongest Castlevania games and effectively delivering a solid experience that is as straightforward as it is satisfying. Kirika and Masha each have their own mode of basic attack, with the former's weapon of choice being an automatic gun along with a shotgun you can use optionally, and the latter's way of punishment being the whip, both of which can only hit horizontally. Basic weapons aside, they each have their own selection of sub-weapons as well, with Kirika being more fire-oriented while Masha more toward the icy side of things, though there is some overlap. You can switch between the two maids at will at any given moment as long as they're both alive, and if one perishes, you can quickly bring her back to life by means of a funny little minigame. As mentioned previously, you can upgrade your combat prowess by leveling up via the use of demon bones you have found, which also makes you harder to take down. Healing occurs both by using consumables but also by utilizing your demon lord's power, though I figured that out around the middle of the game and kept forgetting about it, which I once again attribute to lackluster tutorials. All in all, combat was incredibly fun, and as you'd expect, where it truly shone was during the game's boss fights. I'm happy to say that the big bads I got to duke it out with here were very entertaining, featuring diverse attack patterns that were appropriately telegraphed and rewarded keen observation, with the exception of a single boss that I felt was very chaotic and quite hard to read and anticipate. They also posed a healthy challenge, with some of them actually taking me down a few times before I managed to beat them, though I should also mention that I rarely used any kind of healing, mainly due to me forgetting about its existence in any way, shape or form, which I figured would have made some of those fights a tad bit easier. Regardless, the villains here were fun and imaginative in their offensive capabilities, which made them a pleasure to face and overcome. Difficulty-wise, I'd situate Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark on the normal side of things. I can't say I truly struggled during my playthrough. With the exception of a couple of bosses, the main source of challenge here was me figuring out where to go next at certain points, which, in turn, resulted from a lack of tutorials when it came to environmental interaction possibilities. That being said, the game does feature a total of 3 different difficulty levels, levels, with me having played on veteran, which is the equivalent to normal, so you can go both easier and harder if you wish, and can change said difficulty at any point during the game with no consequences on content or achievements, which is awesome. I should also point out that Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark supports 2-player co-op for the whole campaign, though I didn't get a chance to try that out. As for length, it took me about 14 hours to complete the game on normal with about 95% completion rate while getting the regular ending, with an estimated additional hour or two for 100%, though I'm not sure how the true ending is achieved. For a price of about $29, Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark will definitely give you your money's worth, especially if you're a completionist. Before I conclude, I do wish to mention a few additional things that kind of rubbed me the wrong way here. One, there was a specific type of item that looked like an egg that I was never able to pick up even though I did have space in my inventory despite the game telling me I didn't, which I think might be a bug. Two, there were certain situations when my ally's corpse would fall on places where I couldn't interact with it to bring her back, such as on top of this bouncing mushroom or down a crag, and getting at a save point didn't restore them, meaning I had to go back to the main menu and re-enter in order to have both maids available again. Finally, I believe I got soft-locked at some point in the forest area. There were these vines that you can normally burn through, but I actually couldn't despite how much I tried with my sub-weapons, which could be because I got to that area earlier than I should for story purposes, and I say that because when I got to it at the appropriate time later on, I burned through them just fine, but maybe I'm missing something here. In conclusion, I thoroughly enjoyed my time with Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark. The story was surprisingly fun, though generic, exploration felt rewarding, combat was tried, true and fun, the map was solid, and the bosses were a blast. The game is in dire need of tutorials that feature button prompts for its traversal abilities, environmental interactions can be tricky to figure out, and there are also the minor bugs I mentioned previously, but none of these kept me from loving my time with this game. Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark is a great Metroidvania experience that offers exactly what you would expect from a title that wears its inspirations proudly on its sleeves. My final verdict on Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark is 8.2 out of 10. What are your thoughts on Gal Guardian Servants of the Dark? Have you played it yet? Do you agree with the points I mentioned, or do you see things differently? Let me know in the comments below, and please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. As always, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, Soulsborne Seeker out.